It's time for Editor's Cut, and I wonder what you and Vishy have to tell us, because this, to my mind, was amongst the most interesting developments in the last 24 to 48 hours. But it's not just that, of course.
No, there's no doubt, and I think the context is very important to understand. But first, Editor's Cut for everybody joining in for the first time. This is where we look at the headlines and we go beyond it to talk about the analysis, and the gentlemen on my right are the ones that are going to give you that insight. There are two talking points today, one that Neeraj just mentioned, and that has to do with State Bank of India, Punjab National Bank, and the action by the Karnataka government. What does it mean in the context of banks struggling to get deposits? And the second has to do with the automotive sector, and we're talking about the implications of a build-up in inventory. Of course, one would say that that is ahead of the festive season, but there's also the implication that the sales demand, or the demand for sales, is not very high at this juncture. But let's start with the banking story, because that really, according to me, is a big story to talk about. Why did this come to pass, and why is it significant?
Okay, so Alex, we need to take a bit of a time travel trip, but 10 years ago, about 10, 12 years ago, 2011, there were some deposits placed by the Karnataka State Industrial Area Development Board with Punjab National Bank, roughly 25 crore in two installments. Yeah. So essentially, this money, a part of this money, about 13 odd crore or 12 odd crore, got involved in some kind of a scam involving the bank's employees, and there was, of course, a police investigation, and then that investigation led to that money being frozen at Punjab National Bank. This is 2011. We are in 2024. That case is still going on, which means that money is not available for the state government to pull out. The other case was with State Bank of India, where essentially about 10 odd crore worth of deposits were used as a collateral for a private sector loan, and the government claims that they did not know that something like this happened.
So that could also have been fraud.
Yeah. So at this point in time, that money is frozen as well. Both the banks have been engaging with the state government for these last 10, 12 years. Nothing has come out of it. The banks have not been able to pay that money because they are legally not allowed to pay that money. That money stays frozen in the banking system. The state government says that, listen, we have waited long enough. We can't wait anymore. What we're going to do is we're going to shut out all business with these two banks, entirely stop transactions, pull out deposits, close our accounts with these two banks entirely.
But that's a hyper reaction to what is ultimately 23 crore.
So you know, one of the reasons why you have the RBI governor coming out and repeatedly telling banks to go after retail deposits, because retail depositors are much stickier than your large-scale depositors like state governments, because state governments just pull out money whenever they want to. This has precedence. This has happened in the banking system back in 2020. That was when Yes Bank was going through severe financial trouble, and then the state governments started pulling out money from other smaller private banks, IndusInd, RBL, Karur Vysya. All these banks had to face deposit outflows because many state governments decided that we don't want to put money here, it's not safe for us, so we'll take our money out and put it somewhere else. Now it's the turn of the public sector banks. Both banks, SBI and PNB, have said that they're going to be having discussions with the state government, try and resolve this issue soon, but we don't know how soon that will be, because September 20 is the deadline for all state government departments to submit a compliance report to the Karnataka state, saying that they have done whatever was required in the order.
Some perspective on the size of a state government depositor?
At this stage, we do not know, but typically, you know, state governments, especially a state as large as Karnataka, would have large-scale deposits, a few thousand crores at least. For banks like of the size of PNB and SBI, that the amount is not the main thing, right? The amount is what it is. It's fine. You can, them being large enough banks, they can manage the deposit outflow. Yeah. The problem becomes a challenge to replace that with retail deposits, A.
Yes.
And B, the reputational risk, because both the banks will face a severe reputational risk if a state government decides to shut down their accounts with two of the largest public sector banks in the country. And that's a problem, and that's what they need to. SBI is in the middle of a leadership transition. PNB will get into leadership transition soon because A.K. Goel's term is also ending. So, you know, problems galore for them.
Could there be, and this is the last question from my end, but could there be intervention from the central government? Because ultimately these are owned by the government.
Yeah, but the central government cannot tell the state government what they need to do with their money.
Sure.
Right. At the end of the day, it's the state government's call. It's their funds, and they can decide where to place those funds. If they decide they don't want to do it with these two banks, then that's